Welcome to another video. So in this one we are going to work on activity 7. So here we will learn how to use Java servlets and decision management with Java servlets to develop this application. So in this one first we need to download the template because this activity is going to use a template. So here you can download this template by logging to your VLE account, and under the resources folder you can see that the uh, activity 7 template is there, so you can download that one. So then first we will create a project, and then we will add this template into our working environment, and then we will see how this template is actually working. So first I will go to the NetBean, and so then I'm going to create a new project here. So I'm going to select Java Web, and it's a web application, and so I will give the name as activity 7 here. So then we will move to next, and if the server configurations are correct, so then I can move next and I can click on this finish. So then I can create the project like this. So this is the project folder, and I'm going to delete this index.html page because I'm going to use the template here. So therefore I'm going to delete this file. So now I will so this is the template, activity 7 template. So we are having four files here, two HTML pages and two image files. So I'm going to copy these things, and then I'm moving to my NetBean folder activity 7, and I'm going inside the web folder, and I'm going to paste these things inside this web folder. So now when I move to this NetBean interface, now you can see that my index.html and also signup.html pages, that means the pages that we have already copied from that template folder, is now available in my NetBean environment. So now I will run this one. Okay, once I run this one, so you will get our template index.html page like this. So once you click on this sign up, so you can see that we are moving to the sign up page. Once you click sign in again, so you will move to the index.html page again. Okay, so now that's okay. So now we will move the activity. So in this activity, so we have downloaded this template, and we have added this template into our working environment. So this task is already done now. So then the next one is you should follow double OP concepts when implementing this application. So that means when you are implementing this application, so we need to follow double OP concepts. So here in this activity you can see that we need to have a registration form. So that is the sign up HTML. So if I go to this sign up HTML, so this is the sign up HTML. So here you can see we need to get the user inputs like first name, last name, email address and password. So last week we discussed when you are going to use some passwords, so we can use some hashing algorithms, and then we can generate a hash value for a password, and we are going to save that thing. So that thing we have developed by using a separate class. So that class we can add into our environment. And the other thing is we need to connect with the database, and in that case also we can do the database connection through a separate class. So we will add that as well. So and the other thing is, so here we are going to register a user. So therefore we can have a user class like this. So this is the class diagram for the user. So you can see we are having properties like ID, first name, last name, username, password, role, and we are having the methods like this. Here you can see we are having we have overloaded the constructor. with different parameters. So after that we are having set id, get first name, get last name, get role, and we are having methods like register, authenticate, update. So let's create these classes first before implementing the other parts of the application. So first I will go to this source packages, and inside these default packages I am going to create a new Java package called classes. So I'm going to add all these classes into this one, and then inside this one, so I'm going to create three classes. So the one is md5 class, and the other one is db connector class, and then the next one is user class. So we will start from this user class. So this is what we need to have in the user class. So this is the diagram of the user class. So here you can see we need to have six properties in this case. So therefore first I'm going to add these properties as private properties. So first one is int id, and then we need to have private string first name. So likewise we need to have last name and username. So it should be simple here, username and password, and after that final one is the role. So we need to have role as well. So these are the properties. So then we need to add some methods. The first one is we are going to overload the constructor here by passing two parameters, username and password. So we are going to use this constructor when you are going to implement the login part, because in the login part, so we are going to submit, the user is going to submit only the username and password. So in this case once we need to generate an object, so we can use this constructor. So therefore I'm using so I'm going to create this constructor now, public. So here the constructor, and we are going to pass two values here. So the first one is username. So this is string, and second one is again password. Okay, so we will set these values to like this. We will set the password as well. Okay, like this we implemented first one. So next the other one. So in this case we are passing first name, last name, username, password and role as parameters, because when you are going to register a user, so in this case we can generate an user object using this constructor. So that is why we are going to pass uh, these values. And then string username, string password, string role. So these are the values. So now we need to assign these uh, values into the properties. So first we will use the first name, and we will assign first name. So likewise last name, username, password, role. So this one last name, so here username, and this should be username, and here this one is password. So we are going to assign the password value here. So the last one is role, and we are going to assign the value that we are getting to the role parameter into this one. So let's format the code. Okay, so this is the second constructor. So now we will go to the third one. It's a set id. So the return type is void, public void set id. So since set id is getting a int value here, int id, so now we can use this dot id equal id to set this value to the id property. Likewise we can have get id, public so the get id, so that is the return type is int. So in this case we are going to return id here. So like this we can have get first name, and then get last name, and get role. So get id, get first name, get last name, get role. So these are strings, so we are going to return strings. And here we are going to return first name. In this case we are going to return last name, and in this case we are going to return role. Okay, what else? So we are having a method called register. So now we are going to create this register method. So in this register method we can see the return value of this register method is boolean. So that means we are going to use this register method when you are going to register a user with our system. So then once the registration is completed, so we are going to pass a value called value like true or false. If it is completed, if it is successfully happened, so then we are going to pass a true. If not, we are going to pass a false. So that is why we are using a return type as boolean here. So then we will implement that one. So public boolean, and the method is register. So we are expecting one parameter here, so that is the connection. So that means here we are going to use this database connection, we are going to use from the outside. So this is actually a kind of a design pattern. We are calling this design pattern as dependency injection, because if you are going to create a new object here to create a database connection, so then we are totally depend on this this database connection object. But if you are going to pass this object from the outside, so then this class is independent from this database object. So that is a kind of a design pattern. So we are calling this as a dependency injection. So with that one, so we can inject the dependencies from the outside. So here also we are going to do it like this. The connection object we are going to inject from the outside. Since we are going to use this connection class, so we need to import this java.sql.connection class in this case. Okay, so here for now we will add the return as true, otherwise we will get an error here. Okay, now we will implement this register part. So when you are going to register user, first we need to have a query. So what is the query? So we are going to insert data. So to what is the name of the table? So we will go to the activity first. So in this activity we can see that we are having this query. So this is the table that we are going to use in this activity. So the table name is user. First we will create a database for this activity. So I will go to this databases, and under MySQL, so I'm going to create a new database called activity 7. Okay. Okay, now activity 7, I'm going to connect with this activity 7. So where's this activity 7? Okay, so this one is the activity 7. So we don't have any tables now, so therefore we are going to execute a command. So I'm going to copy things from this activity. So this command, so I'm going to copy this command and paste it here, and I'm going to run it. So by clicking this button we can execute. So now the users table is there, so we are going to insert data into this users table. So therefore insert into user. So what are the values we are going to enter? So we are not going to insert id, so that's auto generated one, but we will enter first name and last name and username, password. So these values we are going to enter. So then now we need to tell what are the values. So in this case we are going to use parameters, because we are using prepared statements, so therefore we will pass those things later. We will give some placeholders only. So this is the query. So then we need to have uh, we need to create a prepared statement object here. So first we will import java.sql, because we imported only java.sql connection. So I will import all things by using asterisk here now. So then we can use control space bar to select this one, pstmt equal. So now I'm going to use the connection. So now the connection is coming from the outside, so we are not going to create the connection. So now I'm going to use this connection, and I'm going to use prepare statement and passing the query. Okay, so this will throw some SQL exceptions here. So I can use this option. So we are having throw SQL exceptions one. So then this method will throw any SQL exceptions for the parent method, because we are going to call to this method from another servlet page. So once so if you are having any errors in this case, so we can throw those errors to the main script by using this option. Okay, so now it throws SQL exceptions like this. So now we have created the prepared statement object. So now we need to assign values. pstmt dot set string. So the first one is first name, so we are going to use first name here, and likewise we have first name, last name, username, password, and we are having another one called role. So we forgot that one, role, and here also we need to have a placeholder for that one. So the second one is last name, third one is username, fourth one password, and we need to have another one, fifth one, so that is role. Okay, so like this we are going to set these parameters. So after that we are going to run this query. Since this is an insert query, so we are getting how many rows affected. So we are going to use a variable called a int variable to collect this one. So now we can run this pstmt execute update method we can use. So then we can run it. So then if this a is greater than 0, so then if this a is greater than 0 means what? So that means we have successfully executed this query. So that means the registration is complete. So then we are going to pass this value as a return value from this method. So this is the registration part. So how we are going to register a user. So then the next one is the authenticate. How we are going to authenticate this user. So we will implement that method as well. So the authenticate method also, you can see that it's using the connection from the outside. Therefore we are going to pass the connection as a parameter value, and the return type is boolean. So that means this user is so we are so that means we are telling that whether we correctly authenticated this user or not. So that is what we are going to pass from this method. So we will implement that as well. So again public, and return type is boolean, public boolean authenticate, the method name, and for now we will use the return as true, and here again we are going to get connection from the outside. Okay, so we need to add it inside the class. Okay, so this is the authenticate one. So now in the authentication also, uh, first we need to get the username and password. So we are going to pass those things from the outside, and that username and password will be stored as a value of this object. So therefore we can directly use this username and password by referring the object, and then we need to get the password from the database side as well. So then we are going to mesh these two passwords to check whether the user entered password is correct or not. So that is what we are going to do here. So therefore first we need to have a query again here. So this query will be a select query. Select all from users where username equal to some value. So that is the query. So now we are going to have the prepared statement pst empty equal, we are going to use the connection which we are going to pass from the outside, prepare statement, and we are going to use query here. Now in this query we are having one placeholder, so that means we need to set one value here, pstmt dot set string, and in this case this value will be the username of the user. So we are going to use the username like this. Okay, so in this case also we are getting some SQL exceptions, so we are going to use this throws like this, throws SQL exceptions. Okay, so now we are going to run this one. Since this is a select query, so we need to have a result set object here, because we are getting rows and columns from the database side. So therefore once we are going to run this one, so we are going to use a result set. So now we are going to use if condition, if rs dot next. So that means if rs dot next means if this is true, so that means username is correct, because if the username is correct only we are getting a result here. So if the username is correct, so we are getting so we can execute this code. Else, so we are going to pass a false value here, because this username is not correct. So we are going to pass a false value. Otherwise we are going to pass true value here. So now if the username is correct, so now we are going to get the password. So we are going to get the password. So this is database password, not user entered password. So we are going to get the database password in this case. So we can call to rs and dot get string. So we can use get string, and we are going to pass the column name as password. So now we can get the password of this user, because the username is correct, so therefore we are getting some records from the database side, so then we are going to get only the password in this case. So then we are going to check if uh, the user entered password, so that is actually saved in the object now, so we can use this by referring the object property called password dot equals, whether it's equal to the database password. So we are going to check that thing here. So whether this password, the user entered password, is equals with the database password. So that is what we are going to check in this place. So if it is true, so that means if these two are correct, so then we are going to return true value here, else we are going to return false. So that means this user's password is not correct. So in this case also we are not going to consider this user as a authenticated user, so therefore we are going to pass a false value. So now in this case we are doing some additional things here. Since this username and password is correct, so we will add the other basic information about this user as well into this user object. So we can add the ID, so ID of this object, ID of this user by using rs dot get int. So we will use get int, and the column name is id, so we will use that value. Other thing is first name. So first name, so we can get it by using get string first name, and then we can get the last name, and we can get the role. So this is last name, this is role. Last name and role. So now we can store those information as well. So that means if this user is correct, so that means if the user's username and password is correct, so then we are going to fill the remaining values of this user as well, because this object is currently having the username and password only, but we are going to get the other information from the database, and we are going to pass those information to this user object in this case. So after that we are going to pass whether it's a true or false. In this case it's a true value. So now we are having another method here, update. So we are not going to implement that method now, but we will add a method here like this. So in this case it's also passing a boolean value, and we will put the value as true here, and this one also getting the connection from the outside, from the outside like this. Okay, so now we have implemented this user class. So this is our user class. So here we are having these two constructors overloaded with different parameters, and then we are having getters, setters, and after that we are having register method to register a new user, and authenticate method to authenticate a user who actually entered his username and password into our system. Okay, so now we will move to the next class. So now the user class is completed, so this one is now okay. So now in the db connector class, so normally you know that we can have in db connector class we can have url, and we need to use db user, and we need to use db password. Also we need to use driver name here. Okay, so likewise we can have properties. So we will assign some values as well. Okay, so we forgot to add, it's a string one. So private string db user and private string db password and private string driver. So but in this case you can see that, so these variables are uh, variables are only defined in this place. So that means this db connector is having this url. So this url is actually to connect with our the database. So this value is not going to change in any place, because this is the url that we are going to use throughout this application to connect with the database, and username and password and driver. So those information also fixed here, so we are not going to change those things. So in such cases, so we can use the keyword called final. So if we use the keyword final, so then others can't change this value. So this value will be the final value. So then we will add that thing as well here. So we will add this final keyword. So then nobody's others can't change these values, because these values are not going to change. Okay, so the other thing is, so we can have these values as statics ones, because once we have statics variables here, so then we can create the connection as an static one. So the difference between static and non-static means the static ones belongs to the class, non-statics are belongs to the instances. But here we don't need to create different instances, because the db connector class is doing the same thing. So it's not going to its duty is not going to change based on the instances or based on the objects. So therefore we can have static method here, and then we can directly call to this method to get the connection. So that is easy for us. Otherwise we need to create new objects every time we are going to connect with this db connection connector. We are going to connect with the database through this db connector class. So now we will make this static like this. So since we have created these as statics, so now we can create public static connection get con. So now we can have a method get con method with static method, because these variables are static now. So now here also I need to import java.sql.asterisk. Okay, so now we are going to create connection here called con. So we are going to use driver manager dot get connection, and we are going to pass the url db user and db password. Okay, so before creating the connection, so we forgot one step. So here we need to register this driver. So we can use this for name, and we can give the driver name here, and we can register this driver. So in this case also you can see that we are having some exceptions. So we can use this uh, throw clause here, and without using this class not found exception, so we will go with the general exception. So throws exception. Okay, so then we can we can we can we can remove these errors. So now we need to return this con object. object from this class. So this is the connection class. So now compared to our previous DB connector class, now in this class we have done several modifications. The first one is we have added these variables as finals, because these values are not going to change, because this is the URL of the database, and throughout the application, so we are going to use this URL. So we don't have any other URLs, so therefore this value is not going to change. So because of that, we make those as final. Same for the username and password, and also for the driver. And since these values, that mean so this method, this get connection method, so that mean the database connection that we are going to create through this connection DB connector class is always same. It's not going to change based on the objects or the instances. So therefore we can make this as a static method. So then this connection of method is belongs to the class. So but to create this as a static method, so we need to have static variables, because if the class not if the class does not have, I mean, if these variables are not belongs to the class, so then actually we cannot use these variables inside the static method. So therefore we need to convert these variables into static. So that is why we have made these things as static here. So then we can directly create a static method here. So then when you are going to create a new connection, so we can directly call to this get connection method without creating an object. So that is the benefit we are getting by making this as a static method. So now we completed this part as well. So now in this case, so we have completed our user class, and also the DB connector class. So now I will move to the other one. So that is the MD5 class.